Well, this is going to be who had the harder road to 7 championships. And of the 3 7-time NASCAR Premier Series champions, Richard Petty was the first, Dale Earnhardt was the second, and Jimmy Johnson was the third. Now, who had the harder? All 3 of them. 2 of them are in the Hall of Fame. Dale Earnhardt and Richard Petty first ballot as they should have been. Jimmy Johnson, first year of eligibility, should go in unanimous. I have no qualms with that. But, and Jimmy Johnson fans, you may not like this video. You may dislike it. But you raced Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus when they won those 7 championships, raced the system. Did a great job of it. Great accomplishment. But it's not as hard. Some of those years he would not have been full season champ. So I throw him out of the picture immediately. Now, let's look at stats. And I went back using the Racing Reference website to see how many cars both Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt beat, how many fully funded cars. Back in the 60s when Petty was winning, it would basically be factory cars. Let's go all the way back to 1964. Richard Petty won the championship, helped by the Daytona 500 win. The points were not balanced back in. It was not the same for every race. You only had Ned Jarrett and David Pearson, other than Petty, running all the races. So he beat 2 other fully funded cars, or factory cars, back in. Okay? So be it. Now, let's go to 1967. Petty had a phenomenal year. But you basically only had 3 cars running all the races, and Petty was the only one that was fully funded. He did win 27 races that year, and 10 in a row. You had James Hilton, notable independent, plus Bobby Allison running all the races, some I think in his own independent Chevelle, and winning some. So basically, in 67, Petty beat no factory cars. Pearson had split with Cotton Owens during that year and didn't run all the races. Now, let's go to 71. Richard Petty was the only, well, in fact, Petty Enterprises was the only factory team in NASCAR that year, with Petty running all the races and Baker running part-time. You had 0 fully funded teams running all the races other than Petty. All right, if Bobby Allison had started out the year in the Holman Moody car and run all the races and not run the Mustang in the races where the Grand American cars were allowed, who knows what could have happened. But he basically had to beat nobody fully funded teams running all the races. Now, 72, you had 2 fully funded cars running all the races. Petty beats Bobby Allison. 74, you had 2 fully funded teams running all the races. The factories are gone by after 71. Richard Petty beat Cale Yarborough driving for Junior Johnson, first with Car Care sponsorship, then with Carling Beer. 75, Richard Petty again has a great year, and Dave Marcus in the K&K Dodge is second. Benny Parsons finishes up. He has some sponsorship from Kings Row Fireplace, but I don't know how great that was. But again, he only beat 2 real funded cars for the championship. 79, Petty's last championship. Petty beats Darrell Waltrip driving the Gatorade car, barely. Bobby Allison in Bud Moore's car sponsored. Cale Yarborough and Junior Johnson's car sponsored. And Benny Parsons in the MC Anderson car, which Parsons had to hustle race to race to keep that team running, but he did, sponsorship-wise it is. Now, I will give Petty a pass. On 1966, he injured himself in a non-racing accident and missed a couple races. 1965, run very few races because of the Chrysler boycott. They come back later in the year, so he not in the point. And 1970, that famous wreck at Darlington that many thought, frankly, he was dead. because the rags come out the window and they thought it was brain matter, literally. The wreck that led to the invention of window nets. But he missed about 7 races. Back from 1960, I think, till 1971, it was physically impossible to run all the races. Reason being, at times, they had a race on the West Coast and a race on the East Coast, same day, both counting. It might not have been the 60s, that might have been the 50s, but that did happen. And the qualifying races at Daytona were points-paying races. That was up till the end of the 71 season. Now, let's look at Dale Earnhardt. In 80, Dale Earnhardt beat Cale Yarborough, close points race, Benny Parsons again in a funded car, this time with Melling and MC Anderson. And Darrell Waltrip in the Gatorade car, who had a myriad of problems that year and wound up buying his way out of contract to go to Junior Johnson next year. Now, let's go to 86. Top 12 in points were fully funded, at least the top 12. 87, at least the top 11. In 90, about the top 15 fully funded teams. All these teams Dale Earnhardt beat for the championship. You had no chase. 91, same way, about 15. 93 and 94 were both close to 20 fully funded teams running all the races. In fact, you would see well-funded teams missing races back then, literally. I was looking up some on one year, and Dale Jarrett in a Gibbs car, the 18, what's the flagship Gibbs car, always has been, missed a race at North Wilkesboro. DNQ, did not qualify. So, now, let me say this. Yes, it's never been no secret I've been a fan of the Earnhardt family. You know, I've even got a vlog up counting Ralph Earnhardt for the Hall of Fame. But, by these stats, Dale Earnhardt had the toughest road to 7 championships. Now, I know some of you may disagree. You may say Jimmy Johnson's the greatest ever and should have been in the discussion, but that's okay. Tell me why. You may say Petty had the tougher road. Tell me why. Maybe because they run 50 and as many as 61 races a year, which was really 60. No, 62, which was really 61. You may tell me he had the toughest road because of that. But in the comments, if you think I'm wrong, tell me why. I won't get upset. I won't get upset if you dislike the video over me picking Earnhardt. Because I know there were haters, and frankly, let me tell a quick little story to end it. I thought I was going to be. I had kind of come around to him. I was a Benny Parsons fan before Earnhardt come along. Well, Benny was leading at Michigan, driving, I think, the 55 car on a restart. And this one, the lap down cars lined up on the inside of the lead lap cars. Earnhardt trying to get a lap back, which he had a right to do. Well, shortly after the restart, Benny Parsons wrecks. And I'm blaming Earnhardt. I'm mad. I'm steaming. Well, then they interviewed Benny Parsons, and he revealed that his engine blew, causing the wreck. Well, it wasn't Earnhardt's fault. He wasn't really in the wreck. I thought he got into him. But no, he hadn't. But just been my disclaimer, my opinion, for what it's worth.